is up, everybody? Welcome to the Blended Couple on Fire podcast. I'm going to get used to saying that. On today's episode, we're going to talk about making marriage a priority with some special guests, and that's coming up
right now.
Are you a Christian and you are looking to take your faith, your family, and your future to the next level?
Then this is the channel for you.
What is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome to today's show, Season 3, Episode 13. We have some incredible guests that we have on today. We've had her on before, so you're going to maybe be able to recognize her if you've seen a previous episode, but it's a couple, right? So we really want to make sure we have an opportunity to talk about marriage. But I think it's really important during our shows that we talk about marriage from a vulnerable standpoint. You know, we want to make sure that we talk about, you know, the bad things and the good things, not just about the good things. So our guests today, we're really going to have an opportunity to really ask them some challenging questions, and they're going to have an opportunity to share some challenging things.
Yeah, I'm excited.
How you doing today, love?
I'm good.
She's like, I'm good. All right, so welcome to the show. We also want to let you know that we do perfectlyblendedevent.com. If you want to head there, if you're interested in having us come on out and, put on a 2-hour workshop at your local church, we can do that. So if you go to perfectlyblendedevent.com, you can check it out. So without further ado, let's introduce our special guests.
Yes.
Hey, everybody. So we want to welcome Phil and Mary to the show. How you guys doing?
Good. Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing fantastic. It's
Good.
awesome. We absolutely love having couples on the show.
Yeah, we do.
Especially since, Christy and I are a couple on fire, right? So we refer to ourselves as that with our show. But, it's really important that, we talk about individuals, but how those individuals actually are able to make their marriage work on a high level. So we have you guys on today. Why don't you do us in the beginning, we want to talk about a little bit about each individual of you, right?
Yeah.
So, Mary, why don't you share a little bit about with our listeners? I know you've been on before, but let's kind of refresh everybody and let everybody know what you're up to. And then, Phil, if you don't mind, after her, you can go ahead and let us know a little bit about who you are.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I'm a wife, and we have 2 kids, a 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. I am an author. I wrote a book last year. I'm in the slow process of writing my second one, but that's like the very early stages. I'm a birth doula, so I don't deliver babies or catch babies. I support women and partners while they're doing all of that. And I'm super busy with that. I am getting more clients than ever right now. And yeah, I think that's everything. And then I'm about to start a summer Bible study with women. So that's what I'm up to right now.
Yeah.
She stays busy. So I am a full-time worship leader at the River Church at our Waterford location. We've been there together since last March. I started there the first Sunday that COVID shut everything down. So my first Sunday there on staff was leading worship to an empty auditorium and just a camera. Before that, I led worship full-time at the River Church Grand Blanc for 6 years. In between there, we spent a season out of ministry. I was working at my dad's company, PH Homes, which is like residential building. So I did that a little bit in between. But that's my main thing. And with ministry, it keeps me busy enough, and the rest of the time is spent just trying to hang out with the kids and see Mary enough. And we're currently building a home as well. So we're living at my parents' house, which has its own challenges as well. Good times.
They are lovely.
Yes. Oh yeah. No. It's a very, very great situation. So we're also doing that with a more full household than normal. So that has been a lot of fun as well.
So, Mary, what made you want to become a doula? Like, what is it that really drove you? You feel like, is the main driver behind that?
Yeah, so when I had both of our kids, my labors were rough, I feel like is a safe word to say. And in my first labor, I had my sister as my doula, but she wasn't like nothing against her. She just wasn't trained, and I had a lot of it was really rough. And so for my second one, I had a professional doula and my sister there, and I just realized the benefit of having someone who is trained and knows what's going to happen and can take a step back and guide people through this crazy process of labor. There's a lot of emotional and mental and physical battles that you're fighting. And I just love birth. I love learning about it and seeing like every birth is like a miracle. I just love it. So I think just like experiencing for myself and realizing the benefit of it, I wanted to be that for women. I think that would probably be the biggest driving force.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. So Phil, tell us a little bit about what drove you into music just in general, and then of course into ministry.
Yeah. So I got heavily involved in our like worship program back in like high school and college, and that was kind of the biggest thing. Like I think going out of high school, I knew I wanted to do ministry, and I really wasn't sure what that was going to be. I actually tried to go away to a couple Christian universities, and the Lord very clearly shut all those doors. And it was really because of that I got very involved in the like our college ministries worship team, and that was really where I was like, oh, okay, like this is what I want to do. If I would have went away to Bible college as a freshman, they would have asked me what kind of ministry, and I probably would not have been able to tell them. So it really was the Lord that worked that out, kept me home, and I really got plugged into that and just knew that was really my heart. I know we're going to talk a little bit about marriage too. Me staying home from for college is where I met Mary too. So it's really cool looking back on some frustrating times early on in my life and seeing how the Lord really used those. But like part of our story too is me, after 6 years of ministry, stepping away from full-time ministry, which was a really interesting time for us. Like it was something we knew the Lord had for us. Like he was like, all right, like it's time to step away from it. And then a year,
really hard.
Yeah, it was really difficult. And then like a year and a half into that, he was like, all right, it's time to go back. And like, it was really a time of like, I'd always think I had looked like, what would it look like if I wasn't in full-time ministry? Like that was always a little bit enticing. And the Lord kind of was like, all right, you can try it. And then he used that to go, all right, now you know, like this is where you're supposed to be. And that's it. No more questions, no more second guessing that. So yeah, it's really something that has always been passionate in my life. We love music. We bond over music in that way too, you know. So just like that worship aspect of the gathering is always just been so powerful to me, and something that I love the opportunity to lead people in as much as I can.
Yeah, and while we were out of ministry, the Lord told us each individually that we were supposed to go back. And then after a few months, we were both like, I kind of want to go back. Okay, good, because I want to go back too. And so it was just very clear so that was what we were supposed to do. And we both missed it more than I didn't think I'd miss it. Like I was ready to be a regular citizen. But we both missed it, and we know for sure this is where we're supposed to be. So.
It is a blessing when you feel like your spouse and you are really on the same page, especially spiritually in something like that as a calling. You know, it's, you know, Philip, you know, you being, you know, the leader of your home, it's like, okay, I want to make sure that I do what's, you know, it's going to work for my family and for my wife. And, you know, the calling on ministry, it's like, okay, get prepared. You better put your Nikes on because this can get crazy and, you know, very time consuming. So it is that's a big blessing that Mary, you were, you know, you were feeling the same pull. It's amazing how God can do that for us. So that's how you know.
Yeah. And we know
it's right.
like, like, and as men, like trying to lead that, you know, where it's like, hey, I love you. I want to run this stuff by you. Like, and you're like, Lord, I hope we're on the same page right away, because like, but luckily we haven't always been, but we were in those situations, you know, which is just so nice, because sometimes, you know, as trying to lead the family, you're like, all right, like I really gotta push this. I know this is what we're supposed to do. But it's worked out.
Yeah. It is hard because as a man, you are trying to do what's best for your family, but at the same time, you know, you want your spouse to say, no, I agree. Yes. With everything that you say, that's a great idea. Right? Exactly. And it isn't always that simple now, is it?
No. Definitely.
Yeah. No. So really a big question that we want to ask you guys, you know, for our listeners is, you're busy. I mean, that's apparent.
Mhm.
Everything you guys talk about as a doula, it's when the phone rings, you don't get to choose like, no, I'm sorry, you need to keep that baby until the morning and then we can work it out. So we
Yeah.
know your schedules are crazy. So how are you guys intentional about your marriage? Like, how do you make time for each other?
hmm You want to go first? You want me to go?
You go first.
Well, I've just been thinking about how it really helps that we're both passionate about what the other person does as well. Like her doula stuff, like I joke with her. I'm like, hey, if you ever need a backup doula, like I could probably do it, because I'm just like I'm in it with her, like we're having these conversations. When she's researching something, it's not just like she has to go lock herself away somewhere. She can be like, hey, isn't this interesting? I was reading this, and like it's something that I've learned along with her, and also like I've come to understand how important it is. Like so there's no jealousy or like disdain for like what she's doing. Like I believe that like she is supposed to be doing this, as well with
Yeah.
raising our kids and just being an incredible wife. Like I know that the Lord has given her this gift to do, and like you want to support that. So that in itself helps take care of some of those times when it's like she's gone and there's some births could be 3 hours, another one could be 12 hours, so it's like or 24, you just never know, so for me it's like if it's just me with the kids and she's gone, it's like I know that like she's doing what the Lord has her to do, in the season. So that really helps just with like when she's gone. But
Yeah.
um
And with that, like watching your spouse do something that like makes them come alive and is their gifting like that, I love that. He goes away they do prison ministry or camps where he's leading worship, and like ministering hands on, and he's exhausted, but he comes home and he's just like fired up because he's being changing people and he's like getting to like do ministry hands on. And it's hard for me to be mad. Like, yeah, I've been home with the kids for 3 days. I'm exhausted, or I had to go to a birth and come home and there was no one here to watch the kids because you were gone. There is none of that because I know that is where he's supposed to be. God's called him there. He comes alive, I guess, or like, I don't know how else to word that, but
yeah
like there's like you said, there's no jealousy and wanting to help each other get there. Like I think early on in their marriage, I would be like, don't go, or like make him feel like I still don't want him to go because I miss him.
She still loves me. She'll text me after 4 hours of work and she's like, see you coming home half day? No, full day today, babe.
But what I mean by that is I feel like it would be easy for me to be like, why do you have to go? Or like, don't they know you have whatever going on? And
Yeah.
now it's like, fine, like go ahead and I'll take care of it and we'll deal when we come back. But I don't feel like really answered.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but like practically like spending that time together when we're like it's just making it intentional, and communicating about it too. Like, hey, like we've been busy, you've been busy, like we need a date night, and being willing to call in whoever we have to get babysitters for the kids. It's like we have a lot of friends with younger kids and we're always trying to encourage them like call somebody if you need us to watch them, like bring them over, but like you gotta go out and you gotta do something just together. Like it's just Molly is 5 and Ander will be 3 in August, and they both just can talk nonstop, so it's like if it's the 4 of us together, like we're having a blast, but we're not having like deep conversations or really
we're trying to talk.
Yeah, or like we're not checking in with each other, as much when they're just like going a million miles an hour. So it's just like it just has to be intentional. That time together doesn't just happen, and the world's just getting busier and busier too, and trying to distract us at every angle. So it's like communicate and like make a plan. Like it's okay, sure, I'd love everything to be spontaneous, but it's like it's not like that. You sometimes just gotta be like, we're going out this night, like it's gonna happen. And yeah.
I think all of that, and also like our priorities are like I work out or I clean the house. I'm not saying I don't do those things, but at the end of the day, when our kids are in bed and they're both sleeping on the weekend, like we're hanging out. We'll watch a movie together. We'll talk. We'll catch up. It's like that's some people, and that's fine. Some people use that time to like clean up the house or get their workout in or like do separate things, but I think 99% of the time, after when our kids are sleeping and we're both home, we're hanging out.
Mhm.
Like that.
Mhm.
I think that's part of it. We're just utilizing all the time that we do have.
And it's great that you guys are telling our listeners how you spend time together, because not all of our listeners are friends with you guys on Facebook. I'm friends with you guys on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can, see, like, from an outsider looking into you guys' marriage should be like in a magazine, like Chip and
No.
Joanna Gaines, you know, all these beautiful,
Yeah.
you know, these little blonde haired babies, you know, everybody has these huge
Yeah.
smiles. And literally, I know that you guys are both happy people. But
Yeah.
if someone doesn't know you on a personal level, just looking at your life from Facebook, you guys' life looks like it's an unattainable thing, you know, for a lot of people. So that's why another reason why we like having couples on that are vulnerable and open to the struggles. Like, hey, we really have to make it a priority for our marriage.
Yeah.
Because you guys do, like, you have like a beautiful family, like magazine family.
you.
It's absolutely gorgeous. So
Yeah, you can tell you guys put a lot of work into it. And I think that's why
Yeah.
it's important for people to know, like, this stuff doesn't come easily. You know, it takes a lot
Yeah.
of work. Having a 3 and 5-year-old is crazy. And especially if they love to talk.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we are talkers. Our kids, most of our kids are major talkers. So it's like you gotta know how to, like, okay, I gotta organize this, and I have to really put a priority on, like you said, date night. That's something Christy and I took on years ago. We're like, look, we have to make this a priority. Like, you know, Phil, you said something about being, you know, spontaneous. Like, our women want spontaneous, and we want to be spontaneous, but let's be real, spontaneous isn't practical all the time. Like, we need to schedule some stuff. Like, we need to make sure these things happen, you know? So, you know, and that's really important. I think that's a big takeaway. Something that you said early on, both of you really said, and it's like, it was a natural thing, and I can appreciate that, is you guys don't really talk about the thing that, like, Phil, you don't just talk about what you do and what you like. You talk about how you want to purposely enjoy what Mary enjoys, and vice versa. And I think that's super intentional, and maybe you guys have been doing it long enough now to where it's not even feels intentional anymore. But I think the listeners need to really pick up on things like that. It's important that we know that marriage is work, and it's not like, oh, my wife likes to go to the play, so I'm going to go to the play. Like, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing my duty, and, you know, I'm doing my job.
Right.
And it's important that we know, like, no, like, if she enjoys this, like, I want to make sure that I understand it and I can enjoy it with her to a certain degree. And I think our listeners need to really pick up on that type of stuff, because that's intentionality at its highest level. Like, you have to be, and it gets better as things go along. Like, you may not like everything, but you should make an effort to want to know and care.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, not everything we do, but it's important that we do put the intention in.
Yeah, there are definitely things that we do separately, but we are together as much as we possibly can. And I don't know if I cut you off.
No, I was feel like with ministry too. You know, like, ministry is so can be so busy, but there's also that flexibility in it where I'm like, hey, like, can you guys come with me tonight to our, you know, addiction recovering gathering or something, like things like that, where it's like, sure, it's probably a little more inconvenient for me to be trying to prep for something with kids running around our auditorium, you know, and everything, but like it's fun, and then we're together, you know, and it's like I'm getting done what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm doing my job, and we're like ministering to people. We're still together too, you know, and that's something that, as the kids have gotten a little bit older, we've been excited about the possibility of doing that, because, you know, when Ander was a baby, it was like no chance. Like, I just had to go and do what I had to do. When Molly was a baby, you know, same thing. It was like she was really stuck with that. But now that they're a little bit older, it's like, no, let's all load up, or even the kids. I'm like, Molly, like, come with me tonight, or come, you know, just trying to take those opportunities to do those things all together, even when we're just trying to get something done, you know.
Yeah, and we enjoy being together. I think that's another part of it. And anytime I've gotten to serve on the worship team, doing sign language a few times, so we get to hang out those times, and then even, like, I always say, how was practice? How was this? Like, you know, he'll say things that are over my head, and I don't really understand some of it, but like, I try, because I know he loves it, and I definitely think it's important. And to us, I think it is just natural at this point, but to, like, actively know what the other person is doing and know about it, so you can have a conversation about it.
It takes work, but that's the thing that can be a hope for other couples is like you may be
Hmm.
struggling, but like put in the work because later it won't feel like a struggle. You know,
Yeah.
you'll still be putting in the work, but it just won't feel like as much work, which is
Hmm.
Yeah.
really what we're shooting for in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, Mary, on last time you were on, you shared about your book Motherhood, and you shared, there's some intimate stuff in there that is just really powerful for other mothers to really, hear. So, if you have an opportunity, we'll make sure to put a link down below so you guys can check out her book. But,
Mm-hmm.
you shared some depression in there, and that's real. It's real. It's something
Mhm.
that I know how mothers are. They don't, they want to put on the happy face all the time and the pretending like everything's
Mhm.
okay, but in all reality they're suffering on the inside. So you shared on that, and I really want you to share again here in a minute. But after that, Phil, I really want to ask you, and you share with our listeners, a little bit about how that impacted you.
Yeah,
How did that
definitely.
impact you, and how did your role come to be in that? So Mary, if you could please,
Mhm.
maybe you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so after we had our son, I don't know how long after, but I started realizing that I just wasn't really okay, and I didn't really know. Like, I think it happened sort of slowly,
Mhm.
and I realized I just didn't have it in me to do anything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I never felt like I was doing anything right, and he did not sleep. That is a huge part of it. Like, I was sleep deprived like all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I had this pressure that I put on myself that I only have 2 kids and I've always wanted kids, so this should be easy and it should come naturally to me. And so since I'm not, I got myself into this place where I basically said, my kids would be better off without me because I'm not good at this. And my husband seems to be able to work a full time job, come home, take care of the kids, and therefore I'm damaging them by just like being so tired and like sleeping on the couch and or like laying on the couch that I'm just gonna leave. And I had a plan to leave.
Mm.
Um, not very detailed, but I had like ideas in my head of what it would look like until I finally shared with him like I'm not okay. And he was like, I mean, you can share your
Yeah.
side, but he was like, fine, let's make a plan, let's do this, like I'm here with you. I remember feeling like I felt better and then having like going back into it and then feeling guilty that I had to like that he worried about me. And I will never forget, he would just like, I knew you had depression and anxiety, or at least struggle with anxiety before I married you, and like I'm not leaving now.
Mhm.
And so that, yeah, that's sort of my spiel. You can.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, if on my side of things, like it was definitely something that you talked about our marriage looking like this perfect thing, and like that was definitely a season where there was a lot of tough conversations and a lot of, I mean, I know any young parents out there know that like when the baby starts crying and one person starts getting mad, she wasn't even yelling at me, she was just yelling, and then I'm getting mad back, and then you're fighting, and it's all fighting because little human just won't close its eyes, and it's like, and you don't know, you're like, what are we even doing, like why are we arguing about this, or why are we getting after each other, and it's like it's just because you're sleep deprived, or you're dealing with this depression, and like,
and it's a huge adjustment.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
kids in general.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, like, for me, I knew that she was having a tough time, but I think at first it was more like, oh, it's just gonna work itself out though. Like it'll work
Mm-hmm.
itself out. It'll work itself out. And we kind of got to the point where like she was like, I think I remember you almost saying like, I've been trying to tell you this, like I've been like saying this is what I'm struggling with, and like I don't think I was really hearing it as quickly, but my approach was always like, okay, like let's get home, let's see how I can help her, and like try to like support her. But sometimes it takes a little more than that to be like, okay, like there's really an issue here, like what can we do to help that, other than me just being like, okay, you go take a nap, or whatever, because if you're dealing with postpartum depression, it's more than just just go sleep that off. It's like it's a real thing that people struggle with. So but I know it was a season of it was a great test in our marriage, just like, okay, like we got to buckle down, and we got to like, rely on the Lord, and really just like figure out how to give this to him, right? Like how to like
Mm-hmm.
practically like ask him to help. And and go from there. But yeah, I mean, that's like she said, like, I'm like, I love you. I love you when we started dating, when we got married, like, we weren't perfect then either. It's like these things, it's not like some sort of blindsiding thing. Like, you're an anxious person. I'm like, I knew that. Like, let's just talk about it and let's figure it out and like do what we can. And that's, I mean, the communication aspect of all of it is always like what we come back to. Like, we just got to be willing to tell each other like how we're feeling and like what we're struggling with, even if in the moment that's going to cause an issue. Like, nobody, like, I had to be honest with her and be like, it's hard to come home sometimes because you are like, it was like she was taking it out on me too, and I was like, I just need you to know that. Like, I'm not blaming you. Like, I know you're struggling, but like, it's tough for me too. And I feel like that was kind of a eye-opening moment for you a little bit, and just like, and that was not easy, but like, it led to figuring stuff out and led to, healing and everything. And you just kind of take it from there. So.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just you because I don't have a lot of experience with this, but like he would shoulder it and then like put on a brave face around me that he wasn't worried about me, it wasn't really struggling. And then when he finally was like, "This is actually really hard for me," and like I don't enjoy that. I don't know how that was worded, but when he finally like told me, I think that was almost a wake up call that like this isn't normal and this isn't okay, and like something needs to change.
Yeah.
So that communication, and I would say on the outside, you would probably have no idea that had been going on at home.
Yeah, for sure.
But we are very open about it, and I think sometimes it's hard to share when you're going through it, but when you like start to come out the other side, and right away when we started coming out the other side and sharing with people, the Lord just like used it almost instantly, where there were multiple people in our lives that were somehow started sharing that they were dealing with that too, like they had bad marriage or depression or anxiety or baby blues or whatever, and you're like, oh, just going through that too. This is what we're doing, and this is what's working. So I think like being able to be vulnerable, the Lord really blessed that like really quickly.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, that's huge. Being vulnerable is strength, and that's where a lot of people get it confused when we're, my power is made perfect in your weakness. That's the Bible says that, and God isn't lying when he tells us that, like he wants us to be open with one another where we're weak, because that's where his strength comes in through us for others and vice versa. So and it's very, very powerful in marriage. I think it was beautiful. Josh and I talk about it all the time. It all comes down to communication and being willing and open to have the hard conversations. Sometimes when I've struggled with depression my whole life, and sometimes when he's like, well, this is hard for me too, I'm like, it's harder for me. Like, I don't want to hear about it's hard for you, and you need to be open to say, okay, I want to be empathetic to my spouse and understand that it's hard for him too. He loves me, and when we're in this together, God has made it to where we bear each other's weight, and we have to be conscious of that.
Mary, would you say that Phil is a patient man?
Yes.
Look at the smile.
He's patient.
So, guys, I think you could take this as a hint. Like, patience is important. It's so important. And it's not just because your wife suffers with depression. My wife suffers with depression, but we need to know, like, women desire patience from a man. They do. And that's a side that I don't know about you, Phil, but for me, with the way that I was raised, is patience was never an important aspect as a man, right? It's just do as I say, do this, do that. I don't need to care. That's your job to care. And that's so backwards in the reality of it. Like, you guys have a happy marriage, number one, because you're obedient to Christ. I mean, we know that's number one, but number two is you care enough about your spouse to care about the things that matter, about changing our own selves. And that's patience is something that we have to work on as a man. It doesn't come easily to us, So, I just love that you had this huge smile on your face, Mary, when I said that, because it matters that much. Does it not matter that much?
Yes. We had a similar story. I've struggled with depression, and some years it's worse than others. And I had been struggling for a few months, and it was nothing that really debilitated me in a long time since him and I had been together. And we pulled into trunk or treat. Okay. So, and we were for our church, and I had been telling him, like, we can't go.
Yeah.
And he's like, like, come on, we already signed up to have a trunk. And then we pull in and we're parked. And I am like, I just break down and I'm like, I have been trying to tell you. Like, I am not okay. I am not, like, I'm the one that knows about this, and I am not okay. And that's when he's like, okay, like, I didn't realize. And it was that just brought me back to that when you guys said that, because I'm like, I've been trying to tell you, like, how bad I am right now. And it's very, very important to bear it together. And patience is a huge
thing. I mean, because guys, we can just be like, all right, like, I get it, like, the struggle, and now it's just like not struggle anymore, like, you got it. Like, I'm here, we had this conversation, I'm supporting you, like, we're good to go, right? And it's like, no, and I think that, like, you just got to pray for that patience, because it is supernatural. Like, you're not born with that. I think we all have our different measures of it, but, like, you got to ask for it and understand that, like, it's all in the Lord's timing. And, like, we know that, like, one of the reasons I was so passionate about her writing that book was, like, okay, like, we went through this, and, like, we're doing good now, and, like, you can use this to help people. And, like, I know that the Lord, like, wants you to use this to help people. And, like, if we hadn't gone through that, then, like, she couldn't have written that, and she couldn't have had the conversations that she's had with so many other women and helped people, So it's like, you go through these things, and the Lord knows that you're going through it, and he knows that he's going to be able to use it for something down the road. And, like, maybe it's, a couple months later and you see and you recognize it, maybe it's years later, but, like, it happens, it does happen for a reason to be used, in an impactful way. So.
Yeah, it's funny. We since we are part of a recovery program at our own church, it's so important. We talk about this all the time about how important your testimony is, and making sure that you share that. And I know a lot of times the older Christians and stuff think testimony is about, when they got saved, and that's important. It's not that it's not important, but how has God worked in your life in the hard stuff? That's the stuff that people want to stay away from and are afraid to say, because it shows that they're broken. Well, we're all broken, right? We're all dismantled. I mean, we're all imperfect people, but our vulnerability and willingness and obedience to Christ and saying, hey, I'm willing to share this, and you encouraging your wife, like, write a book about it, and a lot of people are like, I can't write a book. Like, who do I think I am? It's that's not what it's about. It's about saying, hey, there's a testimony that, can impact one other person. God's asking me to do this because this problem wasn't solved just for our marriage. This problem has been solved so God can shine through us and, and impact us. So the support level, we can feel it on this side of the camera, from you guys. You guys are super supportive of each other, and you root for each other, you're in each other's corner and stuff. So, if anybody could get anything today from that, it's something that's really important. I think that you need to understand, like, marriage is a team thing, and your partner can't win without you winning too. And I think, to stand in each other's corner and really root each other on, and really, you're excited for what each other do. And that's so important. We need to be passionate about what each other do.
Well, and I think about the book too. A lot of men, I mean, some women, but a lot of men struggle with pride. And to be encouraging to your wife to allow people to have such an insight into, not if it's into her life, it's into your life.
That's right.
And a lot of men they're very, like they don't want people to know about the struggles that they struggle with. So when you are a woman, women are more keen to share, especially with one another. And so to have a husband that's like, no, I'm encouraging you to get this out, to help other people. But in doing so, that's also allowing people an insight into my life, and about us. Definitely. I think that's very powerful for people to know in a marriage, because a lot of men wouldn't want their spouse to write such a intimate book like that. And I know a lot of people personally that were touched by her book. People that reached out to me said, hey, can you find out if I can get her number, because I really need to talk to her, so it's God works through those things and through the struggles. Definitely. And it's very, very important. I think that's a powerful message to send too, that you encouraged her to do so.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, we had moments where it was like, what do you think about putting this in there? Like, can I put this in there? Can I not? And I'm like, but yeah, like people need to hear that, and it again, like we said, like just portraying like this a perfect marriage or that like you're doing great all the time doesn't help anybody. If anything, it just discourages people because they're like,
Yeah.
well, they have it all together. Like, why can't we get it together? Like why are we struggling when they never struggle? And it's like, no. Like we struggle. Like I can give you different years in our marriage where it was like year one, great. Year two, really hard. Three through five, really good. Year six, really bad. And it's like, and that'll continue for hopefully the next 60, 70 years, where it's like some great ones, some hard ones, but like you take all of that and you give it to other people to say like, hey, oh, you guys went through that too. Like this is what helped us, and like that's just, you can't be helpful without it.
I was in a Bible study with women. I was by far the youngest woman by like 20 years, and we were barely like freshly married, maybe a year, and it was on the book Lies Women Believe, and basically a lot of them were just sort of griping about their husband during this one chapter. And I was like, I mean, I'm newly married, but I never want to get to the place where like I think about divorce, and I never really want to get to the place where like I'm unhappy or like whatever. And they like laughed at me, and they're like, you're so young, like, and you're like, this happiness will wear off or whatever. And I don't know if that like inspired me or like if we would have done this no matter what.
It challenged you.
Yeah, I'm a little competitive, but it like I think I had said like I want to do the work now so that like I'm never to the point where like we want to end our marriage. And I would say that we have like where I'm happier today than I ever have been in our marriage. And I'm sure there are storms ahead, but like I can see, like I can't imagine life without him. And I think it's possible to like go through hard times but not crumble, or like go through hard times but knowing like you're not quitting and you're gonna keep trying to improve on your marriage.
Yeah, I think it's important. So, Christy and I are in a blended family. We've both experienced life in divorce and how horrible that has been and how hard it is. And, so it's nice for us to be able to talk to a couple that are struggling along the way, but finding victory, and that gives people hope. It's like, it's worth putting the work in. And I can tell you, and I know Christy will tell you the same, we didn't put the work in before. We just didn't do it, right? We weren't following what God was telling us that we should be doing. We did what we wanted to do, and it got us exactly where that always gets you, and which is in the wrong place. And so it's inspiring to listen to you guys say, you went to a Bible study with other believers and you're sitting in there and they're telling you like, you have blinders on, girl. Like you don't even know, but you're finding success, and so it's easy to get bitter in marriage. It's really easy to say, hey, it works for you, but it doesn't work for us. And that's just not true, because God has success for all of us in our own way and our own journey. It's just a matter of, our level of obedience. So that leads me into this, Mary, how do you keep God at the center of your marriage?
You asked me first, not him. But no, I do think we are in an advantage. I don't know. I haven't spoken to many other ministry families, but like we are going to, like, we have to go to church together all the time. And I know that we enjoy it, but like, I am there every Sunday. We have a Bible study together. Like, I think that knowing that our marriage is very strong and that we haven't gotten here on our own, and like being able to like go to church together and discuss that, and it helps us grow. And I talked about last night when I was on your podcast, like I do a lot of Bible studies on my own, which helps my walk with the Lord. But then like we talk about them all the time, and like getting to like, I think when we just discuss that and we have that in common, and just remembering that like that is eternity is the goal. Like our marriage, like I'm happy to be married, and that's a wonderful part of life, but like eternity is the goal, like with us and our kids and our friends and our family and the people in our lives. And like I think that helps me keep that as the focus. And he will like, well, does it matter? Does it matter in eternity? Does it matter if this and this in eternity? Are you turning people off toward the Lord by doing, whatever? And I think because we have those honest conversations and we can discuss the Bible, it helps keep an eternal focus. I think that's what keeps Christ the center, because that's what everything is about.
That's good. All right, Phil.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I would just keep it simple with like being involved in a local church together, like and it's not just, begrudgingly dragging a spouse on a Sunday morning. Like can be the place where you got to start, right? Like definitely, but like just the fact that like, we want to be there and like we're making that a priority together too, like that we did a Bible study together, because I was like, I could go to this men's one and you could go to this women's one, and those are amazing and they have their place, obviously. But we knew like for this current season, we were like, no, we want to be teaching something together, and studying it together. Because, I wish maybe here at home we sat together and read the Bible more, together or something. But like, again, like we're busy, like we're going like left and right all the time. Or like I'm studying at work for, certain things, and she's doing her personal studies and everything, so we're doing that stuff on our own. So it's like, okay, like what can we practically do together? Well, on Wednesday nights, we can take the kids to Awana, we can go to our growth community together, and we can teach that together and like, pour in other people. And that's another place where we're just like, we're honest about our walk with the Lord and our marriage and everything. And it's just like, and even like Sunday mornings, like I have to go there. I'm there at 7 a.m. So like she's not coming with me to start, but once we're there, it's like, okay, like I'm going to, as long as everything's going well with the tech and everything, I want to come and sit with her, and like sit and like be like the church together, and so I don't want it to be a cop out answer, but it's so easy in life to be going in so many different directions that like Sunday can come and go and you're just not there. And it's like, well, why does it matter? Like, why does it really matter? Like, I just like, we'll be there and I'll be there next month, or whatever. And it's like, well, like there is like, when you're making that a priority,
or like family time is more important.
Yeah, like when you're making that church time a priority together as a family, like it does like work wonders, in your life. So like just go and just fight that push from the devil to keep you away from it, and go and be, find your way to be involved and and just make such a huge difference. So
yeah, I agree. I think it's important that we put ourselves in a position. I suggest this to my guys in my group. I'm like, you need to put yourself in a position where you're in charge of something. So if you're in charge of something at church, now you have a responsibility. And if you have that responsibility now, I mean, it's for you, it's a job, but you're saying, hey, that's a good thing actually, because now it kind of puts us in a position to where we have, we're more involved with the local church like that. I think it's real easy for people to say, oh, I go to church. Yeah, but you are the church, right? We need to remind ourselves that we are the church. So go and be the church at, the building, with other people. And we do that by putting ourselves in a position to where we become responsible for something. And if we become responsible of it, now we're, we're being intentional about doing that. So I thought that was great.
Yeah, we just had life group this afternoon with our small group, and that was something that we talked about, is how powerful community is, because you get lost up in life, and we all, if we're honest, sit back and say, I wish, every single time a thought or a worry or something happens in my life, the first thing I think of is go to God. And that's not always the case. A lot of times we go to worry first, or we're picking up the phone and calling a friend, or we're calling our spouse. And it's good to be surrounded, go to church, be surrounded by a community, to say when you are saying like this and this, and I'm busy, and people are saying, but are you praying? Are you involved? Are you serving? Like those are the things that keep you grounded as a person and in your marriage, because you have to stay humble, especially in a marriage, because it's easy to say, well, I do this, this, and this, and this. What do you do? And you should make it a competition. I know he probably doesn't know this, but I walk around a lot.
Oh, I know.
No, I walk around a lot, and I actually start trying to make it a game for myself in my head about realizing all the stuff he does. That would be so easy for me to take for granted. Like taking the garbage out. Like I've never taken the garbage out, and I'm like, and it's easy just to not think about that. Like the garbage fairy doesn't come if something happened to him and I, he died. And the garbage fairy just isn't going to come and take my garbage out for me. Like that's something that I should be appreciative of. And in marriage, it's important to keep God at the center, but a lot of God is being grateful, going to God first, and being mindful of those things.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's so true. So, as we wrap up today, if you could give our listeners just one single piece of advice, something that you believe that's been super impactful for you guys in your marriage and your journey, and what would it be? What would you give, and why would you give that piece of advice?
Phil, go first.
Yes, I will go first. I mean, I would kind of like first, it's like the men, right? We're talking about like leading, like you have to be, as a husband, you have to be willing to lead, even when it's tough, even when it's uncomfortable, even if maybe you're more soft spoken than your wife is, like it's difficult, but like leading in those moments, if it's leading to have a conversation because something's off and she's not wanting to talk about it, then that's leading and going, okay, hey, babe, I love you. Let's sit down. Like, what's going on? Or we're talking about church. If that's saying, hey, listen, we're getting up on Sunday and we're going, and what do I got to do to help make that happen? Do I got to help get the kids ready, or whatever. Or like for us, it's like, hey, are we having trouble? Are you having trouble getting there Sunday morning? Do I need to take Molly with me, or whatever? But just just as a guy, just being willing to take that position of leadership, but that, right, we know that that's humbling yourself and being a servant, right? To really lead your family, you're serving them, and just knowing that like, what does my spouse need? Am I willing to sacrifice to show her like love her like Christ loves us? So it's just be willing to do that and be that, and it won't always be easy, but it's important.
That's good. All right, Mary, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, well, okay, so mine is like a little bit totally off of what you said.
That's great.
Wonderful. But so I have an experience. So I lost my dad when we were freshly engaged, and my mom has never said this to me as like take warning or whatever, but the things that she says to me, I started to know, I miss going for walks with your dad. I miss going out to dinner with your dad. I miss
picking up his laundry.
I miss like talking to your dad. She's never said like, I'm so glad I don't have to pick up his laundry. I'm so glad I don't have to like, whatever. She's just so like, she just misses him, and she doesn't like talk about like the bad stuff in their marriage. Like she's, whatever she would, but she has said like what I would give to like pick up your dad stuff again, and so that helps me in those moments when I'm like, oh, there's his pajamas on the floor.
Guilty all the time.
Like all the time. But it's whatever. Like it doesn't bother me. Am I gonna pick a fight and like lose minutes that I have with him because I think that is like, and that didn't happen right away, because that's when I've realized over time with like observing my mom and how she's like done her grieving process, is the things that she says, and it really has formed. It was very formative in me, and I almost like get sad when I see like his pajamas on the floor, because I think of my mom doesn't have anyone's pajamas to pick up, like so it reminds me to be grateful for that. And I don't know if that's as impactful if you haven't lost a spouse, but if you can put yourself in that mindset that like I have someone, and people say he's not my kid, or like he still has to pick up for himself, sure, but like in that moment, I can say, hey, you forgot to put your pajamas away, instead of like, oh my gosh, you forgot to put your pajamas away, Right. I think it just changes your heart and how you have that conversation with them.
Yeah, so many little things, so many tiny little things that you could fight about, right? But it's like, is that worth it, right? Is this the battle that you want to fight?
Yeah, it's choosing to be better. I think, Mary, you talked about, basically you sum it up, it's be grateful, be grateful for all the little things. Christy was just saying that. And, Phil, I think, you're in the church, you work in the church, I work in the church, and there's not enough male leadership. There just isn't, we're called
definitely
to lead our family. We're called to lead, and that isn't necessarily to be a tyrant. We're not, leadership isn't being a tyrant and telling people what to do. It's the ultimate support role. It's how can I help? In what way can I support you? Because God has given me the ability to do so. And, asking us to step up as men, and, not every marriage is happy all of the time. You mentioned, you guys have had some rough years, and you know, I mean, our marriage is perfect, but I mean, other than that,
Right. On fire, right?
right? It's not like, touche. No, you know, but we have
Sometimes I'm
seasons.
setting him on fire.
Yeah,
Whoa.
exactly.
No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Whoa. No, but you know, but we have seasons we go through, but it's the hope and
Yeah.
understanding, like the work we're putting in today, it's gonna pay off. And
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
of times through grit teeth we have to do things, but as men of our home, you know, we got to remember we're the one that's been given this, you know, and we need to lead it
Yeah.
appropriately. And sometimes that's
Mhm.
biting our tongue extra hard, or it's putting in the extra work, and that's just the way
Yeah.
that it is. So
But I think what
Definitely.
Mary said too, though, is key. She said it changes your heart in that moment about looking like at his pajamas on the floor or things like that. And that is what Jesus does for us.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
if we're keeping God at the center of our marriage, God would want us to have a heart change in that moment.
Yeah.
He doesn't want us to do anything out of anger. And us being
Mhm.
human, a lot of times that's easier said than done. But having that constant reminder to look at it differently and say, I could get mad at this, but what if he wasn't here anymore?
Mhm.
Really, would I be
Mhm.
mad about it? And it's all about perception. And a lot of people,
Yeah.
I've said this to a lot of women, you know, that they say similar things like, he's not a child. He's not your child. He could take care of himself. Yes, but do I want to set my husband up for success? Do I want to
Mhm.
send him going out into the world being a light for God after I just got done yelling at him or us fighting?
Mhm.
I want to make
Yeah.
sure I set him up for success and let him know I'm his biggest fan. And then recognize the things that I probably do that I'm not conscious of, that he just takes care of for me,
Mhm.
that he doesn't ever say anything to me about. And
Yeah.
I think that was a huge thing that she said about the heart change, because that is what God would want ultimately, is for our heart to change through it, especially in marriage, because the devil wants to see nothing
Yeah.
more than marriages break up. You know?
Definitely. And you're growing all the time. You know, people want to get married and in year 1 and year 2 have like arrived, you know, and it's like, no, like as Christians, right? Our whole life we're being sanctified and growing, and like
Yeah.
it should never feel bad that like you're not where you're supposed to be, because it's a journey. Like you need to acknowledge that, and you know, in a marriage, like know that like hopefully every day my heart's being softened for, you know, her, and that we're growing together, and you know, you're on a journey together. It has
And you
some
guys just
ups
are
and downs,
beautiful.
and
You're a
yeah.
beautiful couple.
Thank
You are.
You guys are. You put in the work, you know, and that's why we
Yeah.
appreciate you guys coming on here. You know,
Mhm.
you know, Mary, do us a favor. Let us know where we can get in contact with you. I want to make sure that we give proper links and things of that nature. Do you have somewhere where we can get in touch?
Yeah, I mean, my Instagram is probably like the biggest place. All of my book is linked in there and everything, which is Mary K. Piasecki, P as in Paul, I-A S as in Sam, E-C-K-I. It was my Instagram handle, and that's where I update on book stuff, doula stuff, life stuff. I talk about
House stuff,
house
you know.
stuff, or you know, documenting.
Yes, there you go.
There you go. Our house building journey on there and everything. So that would be the best place to get and follow us.
Yeah.
Follow our
And
journey.
Phil, we know that you play, and they probably
Yes.
stream. So where could we go
Yes.
if we wanted to watch and listen?
Yeah, if you're in the Waterford area, that's where I lead worship there at our Waterford location at the River Church. We're there at 10:30 on Sundays. So 10:30, I'm live on Sundays, and then 7 p.m. on Tuesday nights is our recovery gathering. So that's live as well. And I mean, she's always tagging me and stuff or whatever on hers. But
yeah, that's the River Church Facebook page.
Yeah. So if you're
Well, at
really
seven on
inclined
Tuesdays, they should
to
be watching
hear
the
me
podcast.
sing.
Yeah.
Yes, I know that. Yes.
You're not going Tuesdays, no.
Yeah. After the fact, Wednesday morning is a great time.
On your way to work.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so very much. We
Yeah,
truly
thank
appreciate
you.
it. We will have to make sure we get a chance to do this again.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
this is fun.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
All right, well, yeah, we'll see you. Bye, guys.
Wow, what an amazing interview that was. There was so much knowledge and experience from, they're actually a fairly young couple to be able to bring and share about on marriage today. So
Yeah,
what
so
an
much
exciting-
wisdom.
Yeah, it really was so much wisdom. There's so many truth bombs that tried to make sure that there's a lot of stuff put in the chat today just to help remind everybody, you know. So, but if you want to get in contact with them, you could do there. I put stuff down in the chat box down below. You can get in contact with them. You can check her book out on Amazon. I put a link on there as well, so you could check that out. You know, they're pouring themselves into what God is giving them, and I absolutely adore that they do that. And they're vulnerable about it, and that's just so important that people do that. Yeah.
Marriage is very, very important.
It is important, and it's important that we stay humble before the Lord, humble before our spouse, and we continue to work hard on that. So we want to thank everybody so much for being here.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next Tuesday at 7.
Bye.
Bye.